Start with trade and the economy. Under the TCA, most trade is tariff and quota free. But given that the UK isn't no longer a member of the single market or customs union, we have seen an increase in non-tariff barriers. So in other words, an increase in administrative costs, paperwork and regulatory checks, which have come at cost to producers and consumers. As a result, one impact of Brexit has been a reduction in UK trade across the board. Obviously, there's been other factors which have impacted that, such as the pandemic, that you've got to consider in any analysis. But as you can see here from this measure of trade openness, the UK hasn't experienced the same post-COVID recovery as many other G7 countries. To turn to migration. Post-Brexit, we have seen the government introduce a new migration system, which has lowered the threshold and the skill requirements for non-EU citizens. And as a result, we've seen a consequent shift in migration patterns. We have seen a significant decline in EU migration in favour of that from non-EU countries. So, in fact, 2022 had the highest level of net migration to the UK since records began, particularly from Ukraine and Hong Kong. And we have also seen a change in the profile of visas being issued in favour of sort of high productivity, high skill sectors, whereas those sectors which don't qualify for skilled work visas and which have traditionally been more dependent on EU workers, for example, hospitality, have suffered labour shortages. And travel for those on short-term assignments for work has also become a lot more difficult, people such as musicians, such as performing artists, because of the limited provisions of that type of mobility in the Trade and Cooperation Agreement. So what impact has that had on public opinion? So when it comes to how the public have viewed these changes, we have seen a shift in public opinion as the consequences of the current arrangement have become more evident. It's important to highlight that Leave and Remain identities are still strong, and a lot of people still say they would vote the way that they did in 2016. But over the last year in particular, we have seen a shift as people have become increasingly open to closer cooperation and a closer relationship with the European Union, and that's from both sides of the aisle amongst Leavers and Remainers, but particularly Leavers. We've actually also seen, as you can see here, a small majority for rejoin has actually formed when asked if there was another referendum run today, how would you vote? We think that's particularly because people have become more likely to say that leaving the European Union has impacted their day-to-day lives, compared to the pandemic. Voters have become much more likely in the last 12 months to say that their cost of living has increased and their personal finances have weakened since 2016. And voters have become more likely to say that the economy in general has weakened as a result of Brexit. That peaked at about 56% in October last year. However, the political will for a close relationship just doesn't really seem to exist in British politics at the minute, and neither the Labour Party or the Conservative Party really do seem to be willing to go much further than tinkering around the edges of the current agreement. For Rishi Sunak, Brexit seems to be maybe one of the only things uniting the Conservative Party at the minute. So if he was to take a less hardline approach towards the EU, that could weaken his hold over the party. We've already seen some backlash from the European Research Group after talk of some possible concessions to the EU over the protocol, over sort of the remit of the Court of Justice. On the other hand, Keir Starmer has done quite a lot of work in sort of recuperating the reputation of Labour as a Remainer party after the 2019 election, and his cautious approach to Brexit, so ruling out the single market and customs union membership, does suggest that he's not going to be willing to jeopardise that progress by proposing sort of much closer cooperation. So at the minute, it seems that there might not be much more will for anything than incremental change. And on that, I will pass over to Joel.
Thank you, Sophie. Joel.